when Isaiah Thomas woke up the morning after a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves this November of 2016, he got a text message from Allen Iverson saying, "Keep doing your thing, I'm watching." Allen Iverson is one of Isaiah's childhood heroes and is an idol to many NBA players. Isaiah Thomas let Iverson know, "I appreciate it. I'm trying to be just like you." AI and IT both have proved doubters wrong over and over again in their NBA careers, so it's no surprise that these two see a bit of each other in them. So let's get into 5 times Isaiah Thomas has defied NBA history and beat the odds as a short player. In the NBA's 70-year history, only 25 guys under 5'9", including Thomas, have played in the NBA. That's it. Only 25 people in NBA history at that height, 5'9", have played in the NBA. It's a tall man's game. It just is. There have been people drafted into the NBA or got picked up as undrafted free agents just off the fact they are tall. You don't see many super short NBA players getting drafted, playing for multiple seasons, unless they are really good scorers in college like Isaiah Thomas, Nate Robinson, or more recently, Kay Felder, who was a rookie on the Cavs bench. Out of those 25 players under 5'9", the highest scoring player is a player named Calvin Murphy, who is a 5'9" point guard who played for the Houston Rockets. He has a career total of 17,000 points. Murphy was inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame and is the only player under 5'9" tall who's in the Hall of Fame. Thomas is about to close in on 7,000 career points, and as long as good health is in his future, he can climb up even more spots in the total points records. Now, Isaiah Thomas's Hall of Fame conversations are a while away, but I just brought Murphy into the conversation just to give you guys some perspective on what Isaiah is doing compared to other great short players. So basically, in the history of the NBA, only two, have ever dominated in scoring at the height of 5'9", Calvin Murphy and Isaiah. That's it. That's just insane. He's one of the best offensive players in the league, leading the Celtics to second in the East, and doing this at the height of 5'9", which is a height that historically does not make any contributions in the NBA. Let's look at a perceived weakness that an NBA draft scouting site said of Isaiah Thomas. This is a site called NBADraft.net. Here's something that they said Isaiah would struggle at when he reached the NBA. Ability to get inside will be largely negated by the size of NBA players. Okay, I guess that's not a bad take at the time, because scoring in the paint over giant centers is hard enough for regular 6'4" NBA guards. And if you're 5'9" like Isaiah, I guess scouts assume that it would be too difficult for him to score in the restricted area. But the funny thing is, scoring in the restricted area over the top of centers is one of Isaiah's biggest strengths. Isaiah has no problem going at these NBA centers and challenging them. He is not scared at all to battle his way to the rim to make a layup or get to the free throw line. Let's look at his restricted area shooting stats, because it's actually insane. Now, these are from NBA.com's shooting stats. So when shooting the ball less than 5 feet away from the rim, he makes 4 of them a game and is shooting 53% from the field, which is almost with Russell Westbrook, who is about 6'7" inches taller, way more athletic, way more explosive. Guys like LeBron and Giannis, Karl Anthony Towns, they have really good shooting stats at the rim. But let's switch the filter to just guards and see who he is going up against. Isaiah is ranked 4th in the league in made shots per game from 5 feet away. He's behind Westbrook, Wall, and Giannis. I guess NBA.com is listing Giannis as a guard now, but ESPN puts him at small forward. But Isaiah is making more of those per game than Harden, Kyrie, and Derrick Rose. He's shooting a little bit worse than them as a percentage, but this was a perceived weakness. Scouts were saying, this guy is not going to be able to score at the rim because he's 5'9", but in reality, today with the Boston Celtics and with the Kings and the Suns, he's attempting and making shots at the rim with the top point guards in the league at a huge height disadvantage. Before college players get drafted, a lot of scouting sites will give their opinion on which NBA player their game is most comparable to. The same site I talked about before, NBADraft.net, Isaiah Thomas had an NBA comparison, and his was Jerome Randall, who is also 5'9". He won Pac-10 Player of the Year at Cal in 2010. Pretty good college player, but Randall never played a game in the NBA. I went to research to see if he had any notable NBA moments or stats, but there's actually nothing on this page because he never played a game. He did play in the NBA D-League a bunch of times though. Isaiah Thomas, on the other hand, has played in the NBA for a bunch of years, played for 3 different teams while averaging 20 points per game in 3 of his 7 seasons. His NBA comparison never played in a game. Scouts were not expecting Isaiah to do anything in the league. No one was anticipating this short dude from Washington to average close to 30 points per game and challenge Westbrook for the scoring title. There have only been 2 players in NBA history under 5'9" to have a 50-point game. One is Calvin Murphy, who's in the Hall of Fame, and the other is Isaiah Thomas. He scored 52 points against the Heat last month, and 29 of those were in the fourth quarter, which is now a Celtics record that was previously held by Larry Bird. The last time someone in the NBA scored 29 points in a fourth quarter was Dirk Nowitzki back in 2006, so that's 10 years since someone has scored that much in a fourth quarter. And the last record he tied during that game against the Heat was the most three-point shots made in a game by a player on the Celtics with 9, which is a record held by Ray Allen. And he's doing this at such a height disadvantage. I know I keep harping this point, but it's just crazy. Someone at 5'9" doing this. Like, people that tall do not come in the NBA and start whooping ass. Back when Isaiah was a point guard for the Sacramento Kings, he really had a tough time with the coaching staff and the front office management because they would not commit to him. In the summer of 2014, he said he felt disrespected when the Kings signed Darren Collison in free agency when he just had the highest scoring season of his career at the time. Here's the full quote from Isaiah. "I felt very disrespected. Every year it was somebody new. I felt I did a good enough job to show them I was a starting point guard or a guy who could play a big role with their team, but they thought differently." And he's right, because the Kings kept bringing in new point guards every season to compete with Isaiah for some reason, even though he was balling out. They tried Greivis Vasquez at point guard for a little bit. They had Aaron Brooks as the starter over Isaiah for some time. The Kings just never committed to him for some reason, and now their starting point guard is Darren Collison, who is an average point guard with decent numbers, but he's nowhere as good as Isaiah at creating his own shot off the dribble or creating shot for others. The Kings never wanted Isaiah as their starting point guard for the long term for some reason. Maybe they thought he was a lifetime sixth man or someone who would not reach all-star status, but like he has many times before, he proved the Kings front office wrong and is one of the best starting point guards in the league.